Hey guys, it's me, Tim, and today I have a special video where we are going to be reading the full Fallout timeline. This is coming from the Fallout Wiki, and I'm just going to start at the very beginning and read everything that happens up until the very end, reading every single entry for every single year, starting in 7500 BCE, and we will be ending. Let's see. Let's see. Where does this end? We'll be ending in the year 2910. Alright. Alright. So, it's jumping all the way back to 7500 BCE. Prehistory. Alright. Are you ready? If you want me to make more ASMR videos, I will be getting a new microphone soon. I'll be able to make more interesting content. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want me to do more. Okay. So, starting in 7500 BCE, 4,000 years before the earliest human civilizations emerge in Mesopotamia, Ubar thrives in the region known to humans as the Rub al-Khali. 1066, October 14th, the Battle of Hastings is fought in England as part of the Norman conquest led by William the Conqueror. 1215, the Magna Carta is signed by King John of England and English barons, greatly limiting his authority as king and placing more power on the hands of the feudal government. 1600s, sometime during the Tokugawa shogunate, starting on March 24th, 1603, Toshiro Kago is abducted by Mothership Zeta from Japan. 1612, English explorer John Smith discovers a region that would become known as Point Lookout. 1634, March 25th, Lord Baltimore of the Irish House of Lords dispatches the first colonists to Maryland. They land near the area that would become known as Point Lookout, aboard two ships, the Ark and the Dove. Boston Common is also established. 1660, the old granary burying ground is founded. 1680, the Paul Revere House is built in Boston, eventually becoming the oldest standing building in the entire city. 1690, first issue of Public Occurrences newspaper is published in Boston. 1692, the infamous Salem witch trials begin. 1697, May 17th, Andrew Endicott is abducted by Mothership Zeta from his home in Salem Village. 1711, the Great Fire occurs in Boston. Cabot House is built on Lewisburg Square in the Beacon Hill neighborhood of Boston. 1713, the old State House is constructed in Boston, eventually becoming the oldest public building in the city. 1714, the soil Stradivarius, pronounced Swall, violin is created by the Italian musical instrument craftsman Antonio Stradivari. 1723, The Old North Church is built in Boston, eventually becoming the oldest standing church in the city. 1733. Boston's Trinity Church is founded. 1742. The construction of Faneuil Hall is completed and donated to the city of Boston by Peter Faneuil. May 25th. Chemdrown creates gilded grasshopper weather vane. It is placed on the top of Faneuil Hall. 1755. The city of Boston receives damage in the Cape Ann earthquake. Among the damaged structures is Faneuil Hall. Its weather vane fell from atop its cupola. The damage is repaired and its weather vane remounted by its maker Chemdrown and his son Thomas. 1768, June 28th. The gilded grasshopper weather vane is restored and returned to the top of Faneuil Hall by Thomas Drown. 1770, March 5th. The Boston Massacre occurs outside Custom House Tower in Boston. Paul Revere buys what later becomes known as the Paul Revere House, where he will live with his family until 1800. 1774. The Rio Priggett's Fort is founded in West Virginia. Centuries later, a recreation is built by the Society for the Preservation of Historical Recreations as an automated, historically inaccurate tourist attraction. 1775, April 18th. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith marches with 700 British Army soldiers to Concord in an attempt to disarm American militia there. Robert Newman climbs the Old North Church and lights 2 lanterns to warn patriots of the incoming redcoats. April 19th. The American Revolutionary War begins with the Battle of Lexington and Concord. May 10th. The Second Continental Congress begins meeting in Philadelphia. June 17th. The Battle of Bunker Hill occurs in Boston. 1776. July 4th. The American Colonies' Declaration of Independence is adopted by the Second Continental Congress, explaining why they are at war with Great Britain and announcing the United States' intent to independently govern itself. April 19th, 1775 through March 17th, 1776. The siege of Boston concludes with the British lifting their siege and withdrawing from the city of Boston. 1783, September 3rd, the Treaty of Paris is signed, officially ending the American Revolutionary War. 1787, September 17th, the Constitution of the United States is signed by the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It is ratified the next year and goes into effect on March 4th, 1789. The Shamrock Tap House is established on the edge of the Theater District of Boston. 1791, December 15th. The United States Bill of Rights amends the United States Constitution with 10 rights that all American citizens are guaranteed by their government. 1797, October 21st. The USS Constitution is finished at the Charleston Navy Yard in Boston. Fort Adams is officially renamed Fort Independence at a ceremony presided over by President John Adams. 1798. The former state capitol in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts House of Government, designed by noted architect Charles Bulfinch, is completed. The building is used by the state government until the formation of the 13 Commonwealths in 1969. 1816. May. Hopewell Cave is discovered. 1823. December 2nd. President James Monroe proposes the Monroe Doctrine, a policy of the United States which states that efforts by European nations to colonize land or interfere with states in North or South America would be views of acts of aggression requiring U.S. intervention. 1845. Summer. Henry David Thoreau inhabits a cabin at Walden Pond to further his transcendentalist philosophy. 1850. The Dante and Virgil in Hell painting is finished by William Adolphe Bouguereau. The painting is found in both the Ghoul City of Underworld and the Museum of History in Little Horn and Associates headquarters in the Scrapyard office. 1851. The historic Wildwood Cemetery is founded. 1853. Bleak House by Charles Dickens is written and published. 1854. The Ticknor and Fields Publishing Company is founded in Old Corner Bookstore by William Davis Ticknor, John Allen, and James Thomas Fields. 1855. June 14th. Mormon missionaries select a site on one of the creeks that flow from Las Vegas Springs to build a fort, becoming the first European settlers in the area. This location is the birthplace of Las Vegas. 1856. Grafton is founded. 1858. The White Spring Resort is constructed, becoming famous for its southern style and Sulphur Springs. 1861. April 12th. The Battle of Fort Sumter is fought in South Carolina. The Confederate States Army takes the Union-controlled fort and begins the American Civil War. June 3rd. The Battle of Philippi, the first land battle of the American Civil War, takes place in the current site of the Philippi Battlefield Cemetery. 1862. September 17th. The Battle of Antietam takes place, the bloodiest of the American Civil War. September 22nd. President Abraham Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation. 1863. November 19th. President Abraham Lincoln gives the Gettysburg Address, delivered at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 4.5 months after the Union armies defeated those of the Confederacy at the decisive Battle of Gettysburg. 1865. April 1st. Union forces advance on the Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia. Civilians flee, and Confederate Army officials set fire to the city. April 9th. Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrenders to the Union General Ulysses S. Grant, making a symbolic end to the American Civil War. April 14th. While attending a play in Ford's Theater, Abraham Lincoln is fatally shot by actor John Wilkes Booth. April 15th. The president succumbs to his wounds and dies at 7:22 a.m. April 20th. The United States Department of War issues a wanted poster for the capture of John Wilkes Booth. April 26th. John Wilkes Booth is tracked in Northern Virginia and dies in a standoff with Union soldiers. 1866. Eastern Regional Penitentiary is founded. 1867. March 30th. In what will be dubbed Seawood's Folly, the United States purchases Alaska from the Russian Empire for $7.2 million. 1869. The German-Swiss town of Helvetia is established. 1874. Jamaica Plain is incorporated into Boston. 1877. The present day structure for Trinity Church is completed. 1879. James Ritty invents the cash register. 1887. Elizabeth Cochran Seaman, aka Nellie Bly, investigates the Women's Lunatic Asylum of Blackwell's Island, New York City, New York. Her experiences are later published in the book 10 Days in a Madhouse. 1890, July 14th, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act is passed, creating Treasury notes. 1894, April 6th through May 14th, Lorenzo Cabot's expedition to Ubar in the Rub al Khali's empty charter of Arabia occurs. 1895, the Shalott Company is established. The Tibbetts Prison of United States Penitentiary, Tibbetts, is founded through an act of Congress. 1898, Lorenzo Cabot is imprisoned in Parsons State Insane Asylum by his son, Jack. 1903, Mary Anderson invents the windshield wiper. December 17th, Orville and Wilbur Wright fly the Wright Flyer in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. In baseball, Boston wins the 1903 World Series. 1907, the Monongah mining disaster occurs. The explosion kills over 300 workers and traps hundreds more in the Monongah mine. 1908, May 10th, Grafton becomes the birthplace of Mother's Day. 1912, in baseball, Boston wins the 1912 World Series. 1914, World War I begins. 1915, in baseball, Boston wins the 1915 World Series. 1916, in baseball, Boston wins the 1916 World Series. 1918, Boston wins their last World Series championship. The Sunset Sarsaparilla Company begins production of the brand name product Sunset Sarsaparilla. General of the Armies John J. Pershing gives the famous From the Battlefields of France speech. November 11th, World War I comes to an end following the Battle of Amiens in the Hundred Days Offensive. The Browning auto rifle is adopted by the United States Army as a squad automatic weapon, remaining in service for over 30 years. 1919, the United States government establishes the Grand Canyon as a national park. 1922, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics is formed by the Bolshevik Party, and Vladimir Lenin is elected its first chairman. 1925, Richard G. Drew invents the adhesive tape. 1928, the Silver Bridge is constructed crossing the Ohio River between Gallipolis and Point Pleasant. It is the first I-bar suspension bridge in the United States. 1931, Vim Pop Incorporated is found by Herbert Reed. The original sold Vim as a health tonic. 1934, the Flying Scotsman locomotive sets a train speed world record at 100 miles per hour. March, Vicky and Vance begin their crime spree. May 23rd, Bonnie and Clyde are ambushed and killed on a rural road near Gippsland, Louisiana. 1935, Carl C. McGee invents the parking meter. 1936, the M1 Garand is the first automatic rifle to be used as the standard infantry weapon of a major U.S. Army when it is adopted by the United States Army. 1938, the giant teapot is built in Appalachia to represent the largest pottery industry in the world. The Bren gun, a Czechoslovakia design, is adopted by the British Empire as the standard light machine gun of British and Commonwealth forces. The MP-38, a German design, is adopted by the Third Reich as the standard submachine gun for the German army. 1939, September 1st, World War II begins. 1941, December 7th, Pearl Harbor is attacked by the Empire of Japan. December 11th, the United States of America declares war on Nazi Germany. 1942, Sierra Army Depot is erected. Its mission is to store and maintain a defensive supply of military ordnance. This mission continues until 1991. 1943, the Los Alamos Nuclear Research and Development Facility, codenamed the Reservation, completes construction. Los Alamos becomes part of the research team for the Manhattan Project. April 1st, the Battle of Okinawa begins on Japanese soil, ending 82 days later. July 16th, the first atomic bomb is detonated by the United States of America. August 6th, the first atomic bomb to be used as a weapon, codename Little Boy, was dropped on Hiroshima by the B-29 Superfortress Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul Tippett, the 393rd Bombardment Squadron of the United States Army Air Forces. August 9th, the Fat Man atomic bomb is deployed by the United States on the Japanese city of Nagasaki. August 14th, World War II comes to an end sometime between now and 1961. The divergence occurs. 1948, July 21st. A Boeing B-29-100 BW Superfortress crashes into Lake Mead, remaining mostly intact. 1949, October 1st. The People's Republic of China becomes the main political force in China. 1952, the Miners' Monument is constructed in West Virginia. 1960, July 4th, the 50-star flag of the United States of America is adopted. Summersville Dam is completed, submerging Gad, West Virginia, and creating Summersville Lake. 1961, May 5th, Captain Carl Bell of the United States Space Agency goes the first human in space. This claim is disputed by both the Soviet Union and China. Captain Bell's flight in space capsule Defiant 7 lasted 12 minutes and 7 seconds and made a full revolution around the Earth. Bell died when the capsule crashed and returned to Earth. 1967, December 15th. The Silver Bridge collapses during the rush hour traffic. 31 vehicles fall into the Ohio River, killing 46 people. 1968. In response to the Silver Bridge collapse and subsequent loss of life, Congress adopts the National Bridge Inspection Standards. 1969. The United States created 13 Commonwealths, creating another intermediate layer of governance between the state and federal government. The national flag was amended to reflect this and depicts 14 stars, 13 in a circle to represent the Commonwealths, and one in the middle to represent the federal government and the nation as a whole. July 16th. The Virgo 2 lunar lander, Valiant 11, with USSA astronauts Captain Richard Wade, Captain Mark Garris, and Captain Michael Hagen, lands on the moon. The astronauts become the first humans to walk on a celestial body other than Earth. November 14th. Virgo 2 lander Valiant 12 lands on the moon. 1970. During the decade, Poseidon Energy Plant, WVO-6, is constructed. 1978. The Pumpkin House Tourist Trap is founded with 4 carved Halloween pumpkins for display. 1992. The mission of Sierra Army Depot is changed. It is now responsible for the demilitarization of stores of surplus ammunition that have been deemed unfit or obsolete for military purposes. This mission is to be overseen by the Industrial Operations Command in cooperation with the Environmental Protection Agency, providing a greener, cleaner way to dispose of military ordnance. The mission continued until 2050. 2002. West Tech is founded. 2009. Smitty's is established. 2016. Wonder Glue is first put to market and becomes an American household staple. 2020. The Delta IX rocket is commissioned by the USSA, the last of the manned rockets to the moon. June 25th. Robert House is born. 2021. Huber's Comics becomes publishing comic books. One of the most popular is Grognak the Barbarian. 2023. Earliest direct mention of a transistor is made. 2026. The original Vin Pop factory burns down, prompting the rebuilding of the factory and its eventual recreation as a souvenir shop. 2031. After the tragic death of Amelia Butler, the Boston City Council unanimously votes to have her remains interred with the old Granary Burying Ground. Vaultech rebrands Morgantown's local university as Vaultech University. 2034. The Delta IX rocket is converted for U.S. military purposes. Crew and instrument sections are replaced with a nuclear warhead. 2036. October. The Landview Lighthouse finishes construction in Appalachia. 2037. The Mr. Handy series of robots is first brought to market as a general construction and maintenance unit by General Atomics International. 2039. Prometheus Coal, a division of Poseidon Energy, opens a coal mine in central Utah. As a result, a small village is settled nearby called Eagle Rock. An early bug in Mr. Handy robots that cause interference in the operation of multiple arms is fixed with a hardware update, with no major problems since then. The Mistress of Mystery makes her debut in Hubris Heroes number 8, published by Hubris Comics. 2040. The Tibbetts prison is commandeered by the United States government in association with Vault-Tec and Poseidon Oil to tie their Project Safe House. On April 5th, 2040, the Secretary of the Army makes the decision to build a new disciplinary barracks with a capacity of 456 inmates, a cost ceiling of $363 million in allocated construction dollars is set. The target budget year for funding this project is fiscal year 2041. The construction begins in fall of 2042, with completion projected for fall of the year 2045. 2041, August 16th. Dr. Morrison Rand was abducted by aliens on board Mothership Zeta when he was leaving the campus, Banfield College, in Humboldt. 2042, John Caleb Badburton, an amateur chemist, begins developing a soft drink that will provide energy focus at 120% the daily recommended value of sugar. A major earthquake takes place in Mexico City. In its aftermath, the Mr. Handy General Construction robot becomes the leader in sales in Mexico. Egret Tours is founded. Wilson Automatoys is established in Boston, Massachusetts. Giddy Up Buttercup, a product of Wilson Automatoys, is copyrighted. April 2nd. The city of Watauga, West Virginia, Eastern Commonwealth is founded. June 25th. Robert House becomes Robco Industries. Robert House founds Robco Industries. July. Discussions with Vault-Tec to determine space and functional requirements for the new Tibbetts facility. 2043. Mass Fusion is founded. 2044. The formula of Nuka-Cola is perfected by John Caleb Badburton after nearly 2 years of work and help from his beverageers. The Great Passion Fruit Famine hits America. People actually noticed the taste difference in Nuka-Cola when the passion fruit flavor was removed. The X277 Viper magnetic rail cannon developed by the U.S. military by West Tech is deemed too costly to produce on a mass scale and abandoned. 2047. Robco Industries becomes one of the most profitable corporations on Earth. Shannon Rivers makes her radio debut as part of the Invaders from Planet Z radio program. 2050. April 28th. The Nuka World power plant suffers a meltdown just a few days before the park is scheduled to first open. May 1st. Nuka World opens to the public with Nuka Town, USA and Kitty Kingdom being the only parks. The theme park attracts more than 40,000 visitors at its grand opening. The mission of the Sierra Army Depot changes again and is refurbished with the latest in technology and is used as a secret research installation for developing and testing robotic, biological, and conventional weapons until 2076. 2051. Seeking to protect business and interests in their oil supply, the United States begins to exert increasing pressure on Mexico, citing the political instability and pollution stemming from Mexico as a threat to the United States. Various economic sanctions serve to destabilize Mexico, and the United States military enters Mexico to keep the oil refineries running, making sure oil and fuel continue to make their way north across the border at Mexico's expense. The N99 10mm pistol becomes standard issue military sidearm, following the phase out of the N80. The Weston water treatment plant was built as part of the year-long plan to modernize Boston's aging sanitation systems. Shannon Rivers begins her long-running role as the radio voice of the Mistress of Mystery. 2052. American begins suffering from an energy crisis, prompting the companies like Repcon Aerospace to begin development of new fuel sources. A television documentary revealing the withered tusk of the Texas oil field brings the oil shortage into American households and reveals how deep the energy crisis runs. The last manned spaceflight to the moon, to be performed by the USSA, takes place. On that flight, the astronauts recover the flag planted on the surface by the Valiant 12 team. The widely known Nuka-Cola's dazzling blue bottle color was adopted as standard after market research programs indicated that the blue color was the favorite in 86 people out of the 100 polled. March 5th, the United States closes its borders. April, resource wars begin. Smaller nations go bankrupt as the European Commonwealth declares war in the Middle East in response to rising oil prices. May, the ailing United Nations begin to collapse in a series of heated debates. Many nations withdraw from the organization as the UN tries to keep the peace. July, the Linden Street slayings of the pint-sized slasher take place. July 26th, the United Nations is officially disbanded. 2053, the socially transmitted new plague arises, killing tens of thousands. The United States closes its borders, and the first ever national quarantine is declared. The source of the plague is unknown, but rumors persist that it is a genetically engineered weapon. ZAX 1.0 goes online. Developed by Vault-Tec Industries, initially a prototype of some of the systems designed to govern the vaults. It is given to the government to help the Department of Energy collect resource data. Within a year, it is taken by the military or plague in tactical research. One version, ZAX 1.2, would later be constructed for Westech. U.S. Robotics Disposal is founded. Shannon Rivers and Frederick Rivers get married. December. Like an exclamation point on the end of a very bad year. A terrorist nuclear weapon destroys Tel Aviv. 2054. Repcon Aerospace is founded following the first launch of the Delta IX rocket. January. Limited nuclear exchange in the Middle East raises fears throughout the world. In light of the European Middle Eastern war and the plague scare in the United States officially sets Project Safe House in motion. The project, financed by junk bonds, is designed to create shelters called vaults for the populace in the event of a nuclear war or deadly plague. Construction begins late in 2054 and proceeds rapidly due to advances in construction technology. 2055. Westech Research Facility is established to continue work on a cure for the new plague. Their viral research and close ties to the federal government eventually lead them to being close for the Pan-Immunity Virion project 20 years later, as well as the power, infantry armor, and laser research. ZAX 1.2 is brought in to regulate conditions in Westech. It is not part of the Vault-Tec preservation software, so it does not have any orders to protect humanity after the bombs fall. In the meantime, it calmly calculates data and plays chess with the scientists. Many scientists claim that ZAX is a big old cheater and draws the game out too much for a computer of his considerable abilities. Hallucigen Incorporated introduced the crowd control gas. December 18th, Sam and Emily Blackwell are married. 2056. The Integrated Human Resources Management System version 2.3, a point product of the District of Columbia Office of Software Management, a United States Office of Computational Organization, as part of the contract with Computron, is implemented. Corvigas are available on the market. 2057, February. The United States government removes the Grand Canyon's protected status as a national park. May. Uranium mining begins in the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is closed indefinitely. March 15th through June 15th through July 15th. Due to a shipping error, the Zion General Store is yet to receive its supply of Deluxe Mountain Man all-in-one survival kits, which it ordained 3 weeks prior. 1 month later, the shipping company instead delivers crates of Dinky the Dinosaur, officially licensed Dino Action dolls. The blunder is a major loss for the store, causing it to have to sell toys to regain its lost capital. These toys can still be found in the store in 2281. 2058. East Negra Holdings begins to take control of Point Lookout, Maryland, and the new plague devastates the region. The Dry Rock Gulch Park of the Nuka World opens. 2059. The Anchorage Front Line is established as the United States increases military presence in Alaska to protect its oil interests. The Anchorage Front Line causes tensions between the United States and Canada as the United States attempts to pressure Canada into allowing the American military units to guard the Alaskan pipeline. The first artificial intelligence is born. Limited by memory constraints, its expansion is rapidly halted. Discovery paves the way for future AI research in laboratories throughout the United States. 2060. The traffic on the streets of the world stops moving. Fuel becomes too precious to waste on automobiles, so alternatives are explored. Electric and efficient power cars begin to be manufactured, but factories can only make limited amounts while conserving fuel. Pressure on fusion research increases. The European-Middle Eastern War abruptly stops as the oil wells in the Middle East no longer produce oil. With the fields exhausted, neither side has a reason to continue hostilities. Both the Commonwealth and the Middle Eastern states are almost completely ruined by 8 years of war. The European Commonwealth falls apart, reduced to hostile nation states. The fighting over the remaining resources of the European Civil War begins. The U.S. military develops and deploys unmanned cargo bots all over Appalachia. Olympics are held in an unknown region. Bradburton is founded in Massachusetts. 2061, March. Construction of Vault 108 begins. March 17th, Allegheny Asylum shuttered. 2062. Despite quarantine measures, but the new plague continues to spread, fueling national paranoia. Wan Yang is arrested as a suspect in the Niagara sabotage. Many Mormon congregations come together to purchase places in Vault 70, located in Salt Lake City. May. Construction of Vault 92 begins. May 23rd. A UFO codenamed Paladine crashes just north of Hagerstown, Maryland, but could not be recovered. October. The Nuka Girl rocket suit is released as a Halloween costume. Popularity was overwhelming and stores could not meet the demand for the costume. 2063. Dr. William Clark, a top nuclear physicist in his day, is put in charge of all scientific endeavors at the Research Colonel Green, a career soldier in the U.S. Army, is put in charge of security. August. The construction of most vaults is completed except for Vault 13, whose construction finally gets off the ground, heralding development cycle that seems plagued with problems. drills begin in other cities with completed vaults, but the increasing frequency of the drills has a cry-wolf effect, and the turnouts for drills trickle off as the years go on. Grognak and the Ruby Ruins and Wastelad are published by Hubris Comics Game Studio. 2064. A photograph of Dr. Clark, Dr. Sebastian, and the Maniac AI surfaces during the lull between the remobilization of Los Alamos and the arrival of its new mission orders. March. Construction of Vault 106 begins. 2605. The reservation is given orders to research and produce nuclear missiles that can be fired from an orbiting space platform. Robert House concludes that atomic war would devastate the Earth within 15 years. After every projection he ran, he deemed it a mathematical certainty. February. Construction of Vault 76 begins. April 14th. Margot enters service. June. Due to the enormous demands for electricity from a 17 plus million population, a nuclear reactor in New York City goes supercritical, almost causing a meltdown. Near meltdown brings into effect power rationing. The term hot summer is used to refer to this incident. August. Increasing need for mobility in the United States. Mechanized cavalry leads the military to focus the efforts on creating a man-based tank, essentially a two-legged walking armored unit power armor. Research grows until 2067 and several prototypes are developed, many of which proved to be unworkable in the field. These prototypes paved the way for future advances in military construction and fusion technology. 2066. The United States Army conducts a test of next generation nuclear weapon dubbed Superbomb by the media. The U.S. Navy missile cruiser USS Ibn Atoll is accidentally sunk by the U.S. Navy submarine USS Interference. During the Anchorage campaign, the Interference mistook the Ibn Atoll for an enemy vessel and shot it with a nuclear torpedo, killing all on board. It's one of the worst U.S. Navy disasters since World War II. Resource rationing in Denver results in food riots. After the Midwestern parts of the United States and Mexico cannot supply enough food for the population, National Guard units are called to deal with the situation. Poseidon Energy shuts down the Eagle Rock mining complex due to the danger and expense. The installation is sold to the government. May. Construction of Vault 87 begins. Spring. As oil resources dry up across the globe, China's dependency on fuel begins causing an energy crisis in the nation, bordering on collapse. The country becomes more aggressive in its trade talks with the United States. Unwilling to export oil to China, talks between the United States and China break down. June 24th. Negotiations between the U.S. and other world powers come to a dramatic end, with the president walking out of oil talks with the other world powers. After heated debate, the president stormed out of the meeting and declared that the last known supply of petroleum will be used exclusively by the U.S., and the U.S. will not sell or trade oil to outside parties. Summer. Adding further insult to Sino-American relations, the first crude fusion cell is unveiled. One of the results of the Power Armor project, devices designed for the fusion cell begin to be manufactured. The incorporation of fusion power into the general U.S. infrastructure begins, but the process is too slow to supply power to the regions that need it. Even nearly 11 years later, few selections in the United States are able to supply with fusion power. December. In the winter of 2066, China invades Alaska. the Anchorage front line becomes a true battleground. The United States Congress unanimously passes. The then President of the United States signs the U.S. Declaration of War on China, officially marking the beginning of the Sino-American War. As a sign of increasing tension between the two countries, Canada proves reluctant to allow American troops on Canadian soil or allow American planes to fly over Canadian airspace. The American and Canadian tensions rise, but Canada eventually backs down and U.S. troops pass through Canada. This sets the stage for the Canadian annexation in 2076. 2067, the first T-45 power armor is deployed in Alaska. While lacking the full mobility of future versions, the power armor is incredibly effective against Chinese tanks and infantry. Its ability to carry heavy ordnance becomes key in various localized conflicts, and has the power to destroy entire towns without endangering the wearer. China rushes to create its own version. They are many years behind the United States. A Nuka-Cola machine can be found in almost every street in America. Senator Todd Peterson decides to build a secret bunker to house himself and his family should war break out. Senator Peterson is a wealthy man in his own right, but lacks the funds necessary for such a project. The secret dealings with Poseidon Oil in a covert branch of the government known as the Enclave. The final funding of the project is attained. A construction site is chosen in southern Colorado, and work begins. September. The Safari Adventure Park in Nuku World opens. 2068. May. Construction of Vault 92 ends. Summer. Penelope Hornwright undertakes an internship in the operations department of Hornwright Industrial. November. Construction of Vault 112 begins. 2069. Canada begins to feel the pressure from the United States military as the U.S. draws upon Canadian resources for the war effort. Vast stretches of timberland are destroyed, and other resources in Canada are stretched to the breaking point. Many Americans refer to Canada as Little America, and Canadian protests are unheard. February 11th. By order of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, all Patriots Cookbook magazines are banned and incinerated. However, many magazines remained in circulation. March. Vault 13 is finally completed. It is the last of the vaults on the West Coast, and drills begin. Due to its late completion, the cry wolf effect that hurt the other vaults is not as pronounced. Summer. Penelope Hornwright undertakes an internship in the automation department of Atomic Mining Services. October. Construction of Vault 76 ends. December. The construction of Vault 106 and Vault 108 ends. Vault 108 was in construction for 8 years due to work stoppage. 2070. The first of the Chrysalis Motors fusion-driven cars were developed. Reassuringly big and American, the limited models carry a hefty price tag, but sold out within days. Many Chrysalis plants have long since been converted into making military ordnance. Penelope Hornwright graduates summa cum laude from Vaultec University with a double major in business administration and geological science. The United States Space Administration launches the Deep Sleep mission meant to test hibernation pods in outer space with a 5-year and possible extension, 10 years, hibernation of the mission's crew. The crew colonists of Commander Sophia Dugarre, Dr. Carol Bernard, Dr. Lee, Engineer Nowak, and Soltron Pandora. 2071. West Tech Research Facility is put under military command. Atomic Command is published by Plant Diversion Programming. December. Construction of Vault 87 ends. 2072. Teddy Fearline of Teddy Bear recalled due to being too terrifying for children. Legislative Act 210 is passed by the United States Congress. Nuka World opens a new park, the Galactic Zone, becoming the most popular attraction there. Journal IT software is copyrighted by Pacsoft LLC. Automatron is published by Planned Diversion Programming. Vault 79 is completed and all U.S. gold reserves are moved to in secret from Fort Knox. Camp McClintock is founded in West Virginia by the United States Army. Completed BOMB missiles are sent to different space centers around the U.S. so they can be carried into space and installed into BOMB satellites. The process is slow, but is being carried out fairly regularly. June, the United States Army confirms the development of a superweapon to liberate Anchorage, Alaska. June, Ezra Parker alleges that he prevented the assassination of Viscount Sergei Urbanus by diving between him and the shooter, ultimately being saved by a silver locket kept in his breast pocket. The United States' increasing demand for Canadian resources causes protests and riots in several Canadian cities. An attempt to sabotage of the Alaskan pipeline is all the military needs as an excuse to finalize its annexation of Canada, which would already begun in 2067. July, a group of soldiers stationed at Vault 79 desert after stealing at least $20 million, fleeing south to Las Vegas to gamble with the money. Wednesday, July 11th, the government catches up with the deserters at the Ultra Lux Casino, killing them all in a dramatic shootout. Thursday, July 12th, the sole survivor of the deserters, Sergeant Catherine Montgomery, is found hiding at the Lucky 38 with the money stolen by the group. She escapes the city, heading east. In officials report she is a Chinese spy called Shanghai Sally. Sunday, July 15th, Montgomery is identified by a red rocket attendant in Galveston, Texas. It attempts to flee out of the Gulf of Mexico aboard a stolen speedboat, but is killed when the boat is fired upon by the USS Wade. 2073, August. The Ballistic Orbital Missile Base, or BOMB-001, is completed and partially functional for security and maintenance spots. Using a temporary onboard generator, the only thing that the base needs are the manually input final launch instructions and the codes in the main power reactor. September 15th, as China becomes increasingly aggressive with their use of biological weapons, the United States government felt that a countermeasure was needed. The Pan Immunity Varen Project is officially formed and plans are made to begin experiments at the West Tech Research Facility in Southern California. 2074. Despite claiming that it fights a purely defensive war, United States units are deployed to China. Long supply lines and difficult conditions on the mainland lead to the units becoming bogged down in the fighting. American infantry, mechanized divisions, and power armored units suffer from strained resources and supply lines. Cambridge Polymer Labs LLC is established by John L. Wood, Erica Elwood Woolham, and Wilfred Bergman in 2074 to research experimental environmental smart materials that could be used to enhance the functionality of existing suits of power armor. It is made possible by a generous grant from the Colonel George Kemp and the Defense Experimental Research Project Initiative. The government turns the lower levels of Eagle Rock into a radioactive waste dump. Future founders of the Enclave help Poseidon Energy secure a project for the operation, leading to the development of Agricola robots and installation of a bunker on site. June. Construction of Vault 112 ends. July. Bloomfield Space Center is completed. It is tasked for building Hermes 13 and Hermes 14 rockets meant to service BOMB 001 and 002, respectively. Originally meant for Mars missions, the rockets are instead to be used for installing the final elements of the orbital base reactors, and during final research instructions and performing a final check of the station. 2075. The Sierra Army Depot AI Skynet becomes self-aware. Robco Industries copyrights the Unified Operating System. The system used for operating the Robco terminals. The copyright is renewed for each of the next 2 years. Robco Industries brings up plans to purchase Repcon Aerospace, threatening a hostile takeover otherwise. Red Menace is published by Vault-Tec Game Studios. Ezra Parker alleges he was selected by a modern industrialist to be in the top 10 up-and-coming venture capital managers. January 14th. Bureau of Alcohol, Drugs, Tobacco, Firearms, and Lasers operation under the leadership of Agent Curtis Wilson bust a firearms smuggling ring that had been supplying illegal arms across the United States. February 10th to 15th. After an elongated argument through email with General C. Braxton, CEO of Dyer Chemicals, Stanley Dyer, acquires control of his company's production of the United States Army by Project Clean and Clear. March. Huntsville receives a rural development grant. March 21st. PvP experiments continue at West Tech with batch 10011 in the wake of successful tests of the virus on single-celled organisms. Experiments on plant cells are postponed. The 10 immunity virion is renamed Forced Evolutionary Virus. May. Vault 112. Seals. May 9th. FEV experiments continue at West Tech with batch 10011 in the wake of successful tests on flatworms. The flatworms exhibit increase in size and heightened resistance to viral contagions. Experiments with insects have less success, and further experimentation on insects is postponed by Major Barnett. May 27th. The White Spring Resort announces White Spring 2080 initiative, a major 5-year renovation to the resort. June. General Brock becomes the commanding officer for Fort Strong. June 6th. The Rural Development Grant rejuvenates Huntersville. June 30th. FEV experiments continue in West Tech with batch 10011 with the white mice as subject. Increased size, muscle density, and intelligence are noted. August. The United States Space Administration awards contracts to ArcJet Systems to develop the XMB booster engine and deep long-range transmitter for their Mars Shot project, a manned mission to Mars. August 20th. West Tech Research Center constructed north of Huntersville to experiment with the use of FEV-modified crops in agriculture. November. Unidentified submarine contacts rumored to be stealth subs by the Chinese Ghost Fleet are spotted by U.S. monitoring stations A31 and B19, but no further sightings are reported. November 9th. FEV experimentation batch 10011 on rabbits is concluded. Increased size and intelligence, and this time aggressiveness, is noted. Apparently, it was hard to determine whether the flatworms in the previous experiments were angrier and more violent than normal. Frankly, the researchers cannot be blamed for this. December 17th, a general of the U.S. military visits Switchboard facility and receives a report from PAM that Chinese stealth technology far outpaces the United States, and the unidentified submarine spotted by U.S. monitoring stations a month prior may be from Chinese Ghost Fleet, an elite naval unit rumored to possess stealth-capable submarines. The general dismisses the intelligence as substantiated, but PAM responds by stating no actionable intelligence has come out of the Shaanxi province of China since November 2072, except for a reported increase in the importation of complex polymers and key synthetic compounds. PAM indicates that these are consistent with research into stealth technology on a large scale, but the general states that unless concrete evidence can be provided, such information is a rumor. December 20th, Westech ramps up agricultural mutation research at Huntersville. 2076. Rovco OS version 85 is copyrighted by Rovco Industries. Repcon Aerospace is bought out by Rovco Industries. Concord, Massachusetts Red Rocket Truck Stop wins by fraud the 2076 Trash Busters Award from the Boston Regional Corporate Head. Pitfalls published by the Vault-Tec Game Studios. January. An explosion caused by several irate miners over the closing of Monongah Mine collapses the mine yet again nearly 2 centuries after the 1907 mining disaster. Several of the miners, including Earl Williams, are trapped inside and unable to escape. The supervisor of the mine, Deke Sykes, decides against organizing a rescue effort. While no official reason was given for this, Maggie Williams suspects it was due to the cost of a rescue operation would entail. All the miners are assumed to have died from the first month without food. January. The United States annexation of Canada is complete. Canadian protesters and rioters are shot on sight. And the Alaskan pipeline swarms with American military units. Pictures of atrocities make their way to the United States, causing further unrest and protests. January 3rd. A military team under the command of Colonel Spindell is sent to the Westech Research Facility to monitor the experiments in interest of national security. Due to fears of international espionage, Captain Roger Maxson, the grandfather of John Maxson, the High Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel, among the team personnel. January 12th. Splicing in several new gene sequences to test the virus, dogs are infected with batch 11101A at Westech. Although increased strength was noted, increased intelligence was not. Using batch 11011, the experiments are conducted on raccoons. The same results are noted, but the attempted escape of several infected raccoons caused Major Burnett to terminate the escape as well as the test subjects. 2 pairs of raccoons, however, are not accounted for. Note: Scott Campbell and Brian Freiermuth intended those escaped raccoons to form an intelligent animal community northwest of the globe called the Burrows. The location was never implemented. January 24th. James Oberlin arrives at Atlas Observatory to replace the previous military liaison in weather control experiments. February. The M42 Fat Man launcher begins development at Fort Strong. February 16th. After shuttering their agricultural research, Westech starts the human FEV mutation experiments at Huntersville. March 12th. Atlas tests in Appalachia yield first results. April 15th. Once all secondary tests and studies are done, the test subjects, all dogs from the batch 11101A forced evolutionary virus FEV tests at Westech, are terminated from electrons missing all their limbs are delivered to the robotics disposal site East 09B. May 25th, experiments start to cause mutations at Huntersville. June, Power Armor T51B series development is completed, resulting in the first mass-produced T51 Power Armor. The first Power Armor units are sent to China, where they perform flawlessly against Chinese forces. Enemy tanks and infantry are no match for the Power Armor, and sometimes they even surrender to the advancing forces when they realize they are against. As a result, the Chinese war effort begins to collapse. Its resources and supply lines are strained to the breaking point. June 10th, iBots that are missing their vision sensors are delivered to the robotics disposal site 09B. July, Flotation Homes Seaweed is published by Vault-Tec Industries. July 4th, Vault 76 completed for the United States Tricentennial. August, food and energy riots begin in major cities throughout the United States. Military units begin to be deployed in cities within the United States to contain rioters, and many temporary prisons are constructed. A state of emergency is declared, and martial law soon follows. August 20th, Atlas manages to create a wide variety of weather, warranting further investment of public funds. Evelyn Hornwright's funeral takes place in Charleston after she loses her long battle with cancer. August. Hermes 13 and 14 are completed, loaded with cargo, placed on the Bloomfield launch platform, awaiting the final funding and the okay to launch. September 8th. First civilians emerge at Huntersville. October. Production of the BOMB nuclear missiles is set to hold due to budget cuts. The reservation is put on reserve. October. Due to the seriousness of world events and the threat of nuclear war, Hermes launch is postponed while funds are routed to Vault Technology. Launch is scheduled for 2077. October 2nd. John Miller, proprietor of Big John Salvage, finishes sealing and cracks and clamps the pipes of the shelter in his building on his property. October 4th. A West-Tec 15 chimpanzees are infected with batch 11111, the most successful test to date. Growth in immunities in the chimpanzees surpass all other subjects to date. The military practically drools over the results. Plans are made in secret to continue testing in small quarantine towns in North America like Huntersville. Construction of Mariposa military base is sped up in anticipation for moving the West-Tec project to a location under military supervision. October 20th, Nuka-Cola Quantum is created. November, Enclave personnel seize control of Bloomfield Space Center and begin researching and developing a way to convert Hermes 13 and 14 into personnel transports to transport important individuals off-planet. November 4th, first instance of violence and death at Huntersville. September 5th, John Miller finishes installing the ventilation in the shelter. However, he continues to have issues with the generator, which keeps shutting off for no obvious reason. When the generator shuts off, the ventilation fan stops, effectively vacuum sealing the shelter. November 16th, 12 projectrons that were missing all their limbs are delivered to the robotic disposal site East 09B. November 26th, a hearing with the Senate by the Committee on Nuclear Energy is held on Thanksgiving to discuss the prospect of mining the largest uranium deposit in the United States recently discovered on the East Coast. Senator Clark argues for the mining for the uranium, but Senator Sam Blackwell is quick to point out that Senator Clark's conflict of interest as he had purchased a large stake in Atomic Mining Services. November 28th. John Miller believes that he has fixed the shelter's generator ventilation issues and all the shelter supplies are stocked and ready. December, the 15th edition of Coping with Mr. Virus is published by Vault-Tec. December 10th, Shelby O'Rourke meets with Ray Gary and Scott Conroy at a Truth Seekers meeting as part of her cryptid research. 2077. Gas prices skyrocket, with the regular gas price being $7,450.99 per gallon and 8,599 per gallon for premium. Sorry, I can't read numbers apparently. The United States Army commissioned General Atomics International to manufacture the Mr. Gutsy line of combat robots. The Mr. Gutsy line is completed just before the Great War and released for use. Robert House puts himself in stasis. A Chinese sabotage attempts to take place at Hoover Dam. A crate full of strange-looking suits winds up in Hoover Dam inventory stock. May through August. Camp McClintock begins its automation process beginning in May and is completed in August. New plague hits Denver. Rioters burn down large parts of the city in their fear of contamination and anger at their treatment. Many panicked and fled the city by car, clogging the freeways when they ran out of gas and trapping everyone behind them. January 7th, Major Barnett orders transfer of all forced evolutionary virus FEV research to the newly constructed Mariposa military base, despite objections by their research team. January 10th, Alaska is reclaimed and the Anchorage front line is again held by the Americans. January 22nd, the first domestic use of power armor with the United States for crowd control and quarantine control units, originally serving in China in the Anchorage front line, find themselves fighting Americans at home. Food riots increase and many civilians are killed. Several orders defect from the military both in Canada and the United States. They are captured and sent to military prisons. January 28th, at 4:32 p.m., an all clear is sounded at Anchorage and DEFCON is lowered to 3. February. FEV research is leaked to the world through an unknown source. Protests in many major cities and governments around the world, as well as accusations that the U.S. was responsible for the new plague. FEV is seen as the threat and serves only to fuel tensions. The governments of the world fear that the U.S. is up to, speculating anything from trying to make a breed of super soldier to trying to make Hitler's master race. They begin to panic. February 16th. The testing of the Archimedes 1 weapon system is successful. However, despite precautions being taken, several minor systems are overloaded. Furthermore, both the Black Mountain Communications Array and the Hidden Valley military bunkers experience system frying power fluctuations. At the time of the testing, however, Archimedes 2 remains untested pending the long-range communication targeting system in the Euclid Seafinder. February 22nd. The Army takes control of Helios 1 installation in Nevada from Poseidon Holdings. Full use of the laser artillery enters the American arsenal. March. Prepare for nuclear biological attack from China. The president and the enclave retreat to control Station Enclave and make contingency plans, continuing the war. March. Vault Dwellers of Africa is published by Vault-Tec. March 14th. 27 defective Mr. Handys are delivered to Robotics Disposal Site East 09B. April. The United States Navy destroyer is sunk by one of the few survivors, a Marine named Thomas Davis, eventually makes his way home to Bay Harbor, Maine, where his fellow members of the Beaver Creek Lanes gathered to welcome him home. April 2nd. John Caleb Edberton undergoes the LEAP-10 program procedure, preserving his head in a jar beneath his office at Nuka World. April 28th, a major Class 1 nuclear incident occurs at Nuka World power plant, causing a large amount of radioactive coolant to discharge into the local river, which flows through the parks. Park administration covers up the incident as a Class 7 failure and fires the whistleblower. May 2nd, Quentin Kesey publishes an opinion editorial praising the full automation of Grafton Dam and urges Grafton citizens to cease protesting and widespread automation of their jobs. May 24th, 9 Protectrons are all missing their limbs are delivered to the robotics disposal site East 09B. June 8th, 14 iPods missing their vision sensors are delivered to robotics disposal site East 09B. June 14th, the Berkeley Springs Police Department defused a bomb that was planted by the Appalachian Assassin. June 15th, 8 robo-brains whose mental acuity fall well below standard are delivered to robotics disposal site East 09B. The Mistress of Mystery Season 8, Episode 16 is recorded in Los Angeles on June 25th. June 26th. After the after party of the 8th season of The Mistress of Mystery is held in Los Angeles and attended by the staff and actors. The installation of Kryptos in the Hall of Trials into Riverside Manor is completed. Frederick Rivers and Zach Hayes run tests on the system functionality. Recording of Mistress of Mystery Season 8 wraps up in Los Angeles. June 29th. Frederick Rivers unveils the Order of Mysteries lair to his wife, Shannon Rivers, along with 3 months of solid training with stunt actors and martial artists, military trainers, a cavalcade of experts, all for upcoming television performance of The Silver Shroud. July. Between July 10th and October 23rd, Sierra Army Depot 6 is evacuated. July 4th. After contact with the contaminated lake water causes medical crisis at General Atomics-sponsored bass fishing tournament, Lake Quannapowitt is closed to the public. July 22nd. 4 decommissioned Sentry bots were delivered to robotics disposal site East 09B. The long-time communication between Kent Connolly, comic fiction extraordinaire, and Frederick Rivers, unbeknownst to him, the husband of Shannon Rivers, and actually extremely wealthy and well-connected scientist, ends with Mr. River tries to tell him that the project they were working on, the layer of Mistress Mystery, is completed. Mr. Connolly believes it to simply be a model of some sort and asks for pictures. August. Sometime prior to August 15th, General Constantine Chase, the hero of the Anchorage Reclamation, begins testing a virtual reality simulation of the reclamation at the VSS facility in Washington, D.C. August 17th, the Atlas program receives full funding as its clandestine weather modification technology proves successful. A full White House snowstorm in mid-fall. August 27th, miners strike outside Garahan Estate, protesting the working conditions. Bill Garahan exacerbates the situation by firing a shotgun into the air, scaring off the protesters. September, the M42 Fat Man launcher is perfected and shipped to the Fort Strong supply yard in Mississippi. September, the Free States leader that Riley Clay and Sam Blackwell retreat to their bunkers in the mire after seceding from the United States of America. September 6th, technicians at the VSS facility notice that General Chase is making radical, unrealistic changes to the Anchorage simulation. They believe Chase is becoming obsessed with the simulation and is gradually going insane, but refrain from confronting him out of fear that they will lose their jobs to military contractors. September 9th, 15 Protectrons that were missing all their limbs were delivered to robotics disposal site East 09B. September 13th, employees of the robotics disposal site East 09B discovered their colleagues in other facilities received shipments of protectrons missing their limbs. September 13th, Lester, an employee at the mass fusion containment shed, died after tripping over a forklift. It was reversing in response to corporate forces the facility to post a multitude of work safety posters. September 27th, the Bush Company built a secret lab in the experiment of Van Lowe taxidermy overnight for Calvin Van Lowe to conduct his sheep squatch research out of the construction. Police reported to the Lewisburg Police Department, who sent Van Lowe an official letter of warning. September 28th, an attempted robbery of New Appalachia Bank at the New Appalachian Central train yard goes horribly wrong, resulting in an explosion which collapses the bank, resulting in kills many bank employees and bystanders, as well as 2 of the 3 robbers themselves. September 29th, Martin Reed begins uncovering that not all is right with his employers, spotting several odd shipments in the vaults under regional purview. The first of these 15 cases of Psycho and Jet sent to Vault 95. October. An explosion in Kerwood Mine kills 17 miners, traps 32 more. October. Nuka-Cola Quantum is released to the public. The White Spring cancels the Spring Hill Golf Tournament. The Nuka-Cola Corporation becomes the first business class sponsor at the White Spring, with the public release of Nuka-Cola Quantum becoming the main event. Nuka-Cola bottle caps are becoming accepted as legal tender throughout the hotel. This promotion marks the event that elevates bottle caps to currency for post-war Appalachia. The manager of Vault Tech Regional HQ, Frank Davidson, brushes off his co-workers' concerns on October 2nd. A non-depleted ultrasonic vein in Atomic Mining Services mine shaft number 9 bursts into Welch World. Word spreads about the discovery. Penelope Hornwright and Gregory reach Welch after AMS have already claimed the town and evicting its residents. October 2nd to the 8th, the weekly meeting of the Faneuil Hall merchants comes to the conclusion that their sales down 3%. Relive the October 2nd to 8th, 2076. The meeting focuses on preserved shoplifting crisis. They discover Fallon's disposal for security protectrons and the Freedom Society's objections. The Freedom Society issues a verb on historic preservation grounds. At the conclusion of the meeting, the merchants unanimously agree to detailed inventory tracking to assess the scope of the problem. October 3rd, automation riots begin, based with forced relocation of the residents. Welch rebel against AMS. The rioting spreads to anything related to the local mining companies. After years of maltreatment, news of the town's rebellion spread across Appalachia, and disenfranchised mine workers across the region begin to occupy company properties against the region. With the rebellion and property damage rising, Governor Evans calls in the National Guard, and local mining companies call in independent contractors to restore order. The violence begins after AMS tries to dismantle people's homes to get to the ultrasite, at which point the miners decide to strike before being attacked by the mining companies. The miners call a meeting, deciding to split into 2 groups. One, McFlanagan's to go and secure the Rock Hound. The other, O'Connor's, go to the Bramwell to destroy the mega mansions of the wealthy industrialists who own the mines. Hornwright Industrial closes their headquarters amidst the violent rioting to be reopened on October 5th. They also make a statement declaring that they would not be responsible should an employee be injured. Crossing the picket lines. Bryce Garahan proactively calls Governor Evans for assistance with the violent riots outside of his home, hoping to keep his sociopath brother from exercising his own brand of justice. The weapon he has purchased brandishing for that purpose. October 4th. A supervisor of the mass fusion containment shed puts their innermost feelings on record about the coworkers in occupation. Hornwright Industrial manages to secure all its property from the rioters except the Rockhound, the rioters retreating. The executives of the company are forced to meet the day to make sure AMS is held liable for the tens of millions in damages. October 5th. The rioters who destroyed the mega mansion in Bramwell are arrested, and Bryce Garahan officially requests the permission to negotiate with a small contingent of more peaceful miners. Yvette Wiseman, a co-worker of Penelope Hornwright, leaves a message with the reception desk of Hornwright Industrial Headquarters asking how she and her father are doing, and about the riots of the Rockhound and Welch. October 7th. Walter Scott opens a shipment marked Vault 111, do not open. To his and Martin Reed's perplexement, it contains hundreds of gallons of liquid nitrogen, something that the vault would not normally need, and more evidence of Mr. Reed's theory was correct. October 9th to the 15th, the weekly meeting of the Vanilla Hall merchants assembles. They come to the realization that despite sales being up by 11% due to the Columbus Day holiday, the merchant inventory report showed net losses of $2,294 for the week. With the 12 confirmed shoplifting incidents, several merchants threatened to sue the breach of contract over security issues, and Fallon prepares to withdraw immediately. With the pressure building, the mayor of Boston insists that the Protectron installation proceeds despite objections. By this time, the Society Youth Preservations shrank the 14 to 11 also to allocate funds for roof repairs. October 10th, Captain Roger Maxson and his men discover that the scientists of Mariposa had been using military volunteers, military prisoners who didn't have their brains scooped to use in robo-brains. The test subjects in their experiments, morale in base breaks down, and in light of mental breakdown, Colonel Robert Spindle, stationed at the base, Max's men turn him in for leadership. October 12th, the National Guard arrive at Mount Blair to clear the remaining rioters from the Rockhound with minimal damage to the machine. However, Bill Garahan has decided to go to the site, in his own words, lend the National Guard a hand. Injuring, if not killing, 6 miners and causing superficial damage to the Rockhound. This act destroyed the solid week of negotiation and peaceful settlement of the Garahan Mining Company and its workers. October 13th, after interrogation, Maxson executes Robert Anderson, chief scientist of Mariposa. October 13th, Sharon accidentally spills coffee on her boss Frank Davidson's new shirt, prompting his desire to stab her in the throat with his pen. October 15th, Colonel Spindle commits suicide. Robotics disposal site E09B receives a mysterious delivery for even more mysterious men in black. Walter Scott warns Martin Reed about Frank Davidson's violent temper. The White Spring officially terminates all non-ironclad service contract employees. Essentially, all non-management personnel are fired to finish the transition period for automating the facility. An employee farewell dinner takes place at 7:30 p.m. Judge Archibald Falkland grants Emily Blackwell a divorce from her husband, disgraced U.S. Senator Sam Blackwell. October 16th, the United States Army sends a letter to SLCT James Oberlin to inform him of the closure of the Atlas program. Not understanding why they would do so, the senior lieutenant colonel decides to wait and discuss the situation with Chief Research Scientist Dr. Isaac Hammond. October 16th to 22nd, the weekly meeting of the Fennell Hall merchants assembled the final time. After installation and activation of the Protectrons, the Hall experienced what could only be described as a massacre. Protectrons killed 7 people, including 5 alleged shoplifters, 1 bystander, and a balance cashier. A public relations nightmare followed. Sales dropped 81%. To avoid further media scrutiny, the Freedom Society canceled further weekly merchants meetings. October 17th, Beach operative Bo Peep is scheduled to meet with Calvin Van Loo in Bastion Park. Van Loo is a no-show, and Bo Peep is murdered by the imposter Sheep Squatch, which has escaped from Van Loo's lab. October 18th, Hornwright Industrial wins in the man vs. machine competition against the Garrahan Mining Company due to cheating. Scientist interrogations at Mariposa come to an end. Last scientist is shot. October 19th, Scott Conroy falls into a sinkhole and breaks his leg while investigating a sunken church in the mire for ghosts. Frank Davidson murders Sharon and experiences that he has the same desire to discipline Martin Reed for continually bringing up his fault theory. October 20th, Captain Roger Maxson, now in control of Mariposa, declares himself to be in full desertion from the Army via radio and receives no reply. Employees of Robotics Disposal Site E09B discuss the prospect of losing their careers if they look into their last recorded delivery. October 21st. Marks and Waters family stationed outside the base moved inside the Mariposa facility. October 21st at 9:30 a.m. EST, Vault-Tec staff at Vault 94 received the decryption keys to unseal their new orders for the vault. With the exception of the maintenance engineer Tyrone Hayes, the staff wrap up the assignments and depart the Vault-Tec University. Hayes delivers orders to contact Pastor Gabriela Salavar and informs her that she and her congregation have a standing invitation to enter Vault 94. October 22nd. The United States Army orders SLCT James Oberlin to falsify data so that they can close the Atlas program. Dr. Isaac Hammond flies into a rage by the news and having to be restrained by the military police corps, walks to property without saying a word to the SLCT. The platinum chip is printed at Sunnyvale and is to be delivered the next day by courier directly to Mr. Robert House. Martin Reed, completely disgusted by his boss Frank Davidson and his company Vault-Tec Corporation, turned in his 2-week notice. Scott Turner sabotages Watauga's automated emergency service protocols as part of the Operation Free Watauga, turning the robots hostile and triggering a mass evacuation of the city to the technology-dependent citizens are massacred. October 23rd. 82 students from the Early Dawn Elementary School go on a field trip to Lamplight Caverns from a couple of teachers and a few parent chaperones. LOB Enterprises is raided by federal agents. Dr. Hine, a Nuka-Cola Corporation geneticist, is taken hostage by the FAAD at the Angry Anaconda in Nuka world. Fallout 4 prologue begins. The sole survivor and their family evacuate from their home in Sanctuary Hills to Vault 111. Once inside, they and the other Vault residents are placed in indefinite cryogenic suspension by Vault-Tec personnel. The Great War begins and ends. lasting only a scant 2 hours. Most of the Earth is reduced to cinders in that time. It begins in the early morning as U.S. Eastern Standard Time. The United States and China deploy their nuclear arsenals. Other countries, seeing the missiles on their way, launch their planes and fire their warheads as well. Air raid sirens sound, but very few people heed the warning. The vaults are sealed. 2 hours of nuclear bombardment later, the war ends along with much of humanity. A Halloween costume show was to be held at local Freddie Ayer's House of Scares costume stores. Skylane's Flight 1665 and Skylane's Flight 1981 take off from Washington, D.C. and Chicago to Boston, respectively. They both crash en route due to the effects of nuclear detonations. Pastor Salavar and her congregation arrive at Vault 94 around noon. As radiation begins to intensify, the vault's doors fail safe trips at approximately 1:30, locking out the second bus of residents. Salt Lake City is hit by 13 nuclear warheads, resulting in total destruction. Randall Clark witnesses the destruction of the city and the loss of his family. The Sierra Madre Gala event begins, but is cut short by the war. The casino hermetically seals itself. The few scattered survivors eventually commit suicide in the following hours and days. Barry Keyes dies from an overdose of pain medication, while Frederick Sinclair dies in his attempt to disarm his traps. The only known survivor is Dean Domino. Vault 12 closes properly once it becomes known that the other vaults are half sealed. People within Bakersfield attempt to force their way into Vault 12 to protect themselves and their families. The West Tech Research Facility hit by warheads, breaking open the FEV tanks on levels 4 and 5, releasing it into the atmosphere. Mutated radiation, it loses its mutagenic abilities and complicates things for the Master. The Mariposa military base survives, and soldiers within protected from the radiation flooding the wasteland. The platinum chip still at Sunnyvale becomes buried under the rubble from the aftermath of the Great War, where it would be buried for over 200 years. Mr. Robert House saves Las Vegas and most of the surrounding area from the complete destruction, and his defenses at the Lucky 38, stopping 68 of the 77 ICBMs launched at Las Vegas, 59 through forced deactivation, and 9 destroyed with laser cannons. Mounted on top of the Lucky 38, the resulting light show can be seen as far as Mexico City. 9 of the warheads evade destruction, a fault of Mr. House being forced to use an inferior operating system without the platinum chip, but only damaging minor parts of the Mojave Desert, with the most damaging detonation being near Nellis Air Force Base. The Lucky 38's operating system crashed under the strain of the nuclear attack. Forced to work with the inferior version of the OS, suffered numerous system crashes and failures. Being able to reboot an earlier stable version only allowed him to save Las Vegas from 68 of the 77 warheads, 59 disarmed and 9 destroyed, aimed at the city. Surviving scientists and soldiers based in Los Alamos stand together with other survivors. They encounter, for safety, to set up a temporary camp in cliff-dwelling Mesa Verde and attempt to contact federal government for further instructions. No contact was ever made. A small vault is built into the cliff side to shield the only computer they have from the elements. All Enclave personnel leave Bloomfield to either take over or maintain hotspots. Sub-reactor MB001 and 002, and Hermes 13 and 14 are completely forgotten. 2 Poseidon scientists are trapped in the Agricola lab. After 4 years, one dies of natural illness. With one more year, the other commits suicide. Due to seismic activity, some radiation seeps into the sublevels of the reservation. Even though the people underground are safe from the blast, radiation eventually takes its toll. The sole survivor and their family evacuate from their home in Sanctuary Hills to Vault 111. Once inside, they and the other Vault residents are placed in indefinite cryogenic suspension by Vault Tech personnel. Following the Great War, Mothership Zeta abducts Sally and her sister and her parents having died during the war. At 12:03 a.m., the commander of the United States Pacific Fleet reports 3 unidentified submerged objects off the coast of California and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. At 3:37 a.m., the United States Air Force detects a squadron of airplanes off the coast of the Bering Strait. At 9:13 a.m., the Integrated Operation Nuclear Defense System reports 4 nuclear launches. DEFCON is raised to 2. At 9:17 a.m., NORAD confirms the launch of ICBMs and DEFCON is raised to 1. At 9:26 a.m., the Defense Intelligence Agency at the switchboard confirmed nuclear defense scenario MXCN91. At 9:42 a.m., switchboard confirms nuclear strikes in Pennsylvania and New York. At 9:47 a.m., all monitoring stations at the switchboard go offline. The entire United States is bombarded with nuclear warheads. At 9:47:51 a.m., National Isolated Radio Array experiences power fluctuations due to EMP from nuclear detonations and autocaps the signal strength, and the event is noted in the error log. With that, I'm going to end part 1 here, since that is the end of October 23rd, 2077, at the end of the Great War. So, if you enjoyed this video and you would like me to do another one for post-war Fallout history, up into 2932, I believe, is when it ends, please leave a like and subscribe for more and leave a comment down below. So thank you so much for watching.